capita. There's one glaring omission. Only 2 countries in the world have privatized their air traffic control systems. Only 2, Great Britain and Canada, and, of course, both paid for the assets. Now, how is it different? Here in the U.S., we're going to give away tens of billions of dollars of assets, yet up there, it was considered equitable since it was going to a private corporation, and in Canada, it is a non-profit private corporation. It's exactly the same as here, but we're going to give it away. Now, we hear a lot of talk about how decrepit this whole system is. And of course, I just mentioned ERAM earlier. That was a $2 billion recent investment. We're going to give that away. And then this is the Houston TRACON. Pretty spiffy, brand new. One out on Long Island also. Not a brownfield that I'm aware of, but even if it is a brownfield, the building is constructed. If the corporation saw fit the day after privatization to sell that for office space, they get to keep all of the money. Now, this amendment says, all right, you're going to give it away for free. We don't want to do that. But secondly, let's say if they sell it within the first 3 years, like day one, they don't get to keep the money. The money goes back to the taxpayers. And a point's being made about taxpayers. There's 2 sets of taxpayers involved in this debate. One is people who pay user fee taxes when they fly, or GA pays, a user fee on their gasoline. That's one set of taxpayers. But guess what? Some of that TRACON was paid for, and many of the assets in the system historically, the land and other things that were acquired, were paid for out of partially general fund. That is all the taxpayers in the United States, not just the people who fly and use the system. So there are 2 sets of taxpayers here. And we're saying, well, let's just give the stuff to the corporation. I raised 2 other problems with that earlier. This is too big to fail, folks. This is really too big to fail. If it goes under, like the system did in the UK, because of a downturn in traffic, because of a tragedy like 9/11, they had to come in and bail it out. We're going to have to come in and bail it out. If it's bankrupt and we have to take it back, or if a court finds it's unconstitutional and we have to take it back, under our Constitution, if we gave them without restriction these assets, we have to pay market value to get them back. Think about that for a minute. This is an experiment. The experiment doesn't work. You gave away $30 billion of assets. You're going to have to pay $30 billion to get them back. Now, that would be a substantial burden, I think, on taxpayers. So I think this amendment is very well targeted at the major difference in this bill between the U.S. and Canada. In Canada, it was considered very equitable to reimburse the country as a whole and all the taxpayers as a whole for the assets. But here in the United States, we're saying, forget about that. Just give it away. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lewis is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition of this